Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with another weekly roundup, and boy has it been a spicy week, because we finally know some of the teams that are making their way to the Manchester Major, and we'll run you through the leagues now because all the spaces are slowly being filled up one by one. So we start off with EUL, in which we saw our final play day take place. The game of the day was ITB up against ENCE. ENCE, if they wanted to make the playoffs, had to secure a victory up against ITB. But the boys of ITB got the job done, which is good as confirmed G2 through to the playoffs. And I have a little clip from that game from the man Oscar actually smiling, and it's from one of my watch parties, because Oscar is renowned for a cool-headed, non-reacting player, and you can see my reaction when Oscar actually shows some emotion for once, which is fantastic. Kenny's feeling it. He's going for the Deagle one tap. Kenny's actually going for the Deagle one tap.
Really, what is he able to do here? He's going to start getting people.
Okay, he's been deleted.
Snapshot onto Kenny. He's not going to do anything to win the round, but you got to call him as you see him.
Mate, Kenny going for the Deagle one tap. Getting absolutely. Look at them. Oh my God, Oscar's laughing.
We're going to get inside of that round.
Is that Oscar's laughing?
Oscar there, demo.
Never
what?
would I think I'd see the day.
Elsewhere, we had Virtus Pro securing 65 SI points by not finishing bottom of the league up against Wild. Fnatic, all they needed was one round to secure their spot above G2 in 5th place in the league. And they almost upset the odds by beating BDS, but BDS got the job done 7-5. With Secret beating Wolves in our final game of the day, which was an absolute barn burner, securing themselves 2nd spot, as we'll show you the final positions in the EUL League after the group stage. So as we just mentioned, you can see BDS top and Secret in 2nd, which secured them through to the upper bracket semi-finals. It then meant Into the Breach, after securing G2 into the playoffs, would go up against G2, and Wolves would play Fnatic. And I'll just show you how that bracket shapes up as well. So as you can see here, the winners of Into the Breach versus G2 would play up against Team Secret on the following Monday in the upper bracket semi-final, with the winner of that game securing their spot to Manchester. Elsewhere, the winner of Wolves Fnatic would play on the following Monday up against BDS. But on Tuesday, we had those initial games of the playoffs, and this is how they went. ITB, the boys of ITB, they bring G2 into the playoffs and then send them crashing out of it, with G2 winning ITB's map pick 7-5, and then ITB winning G2's map pick 7-5. ITB managed to get the win over the line and book themselves into an opportunity to make it to the Manchester Major. Also, apologies if you heard my phone going off there and you checked your phone. That's my bad. I apologize. Elsewhere, as a big Fnatic fan, it was an absolutely crushing defeat for Fnatic, who managed to win the first map up against Wolves 7-0. And I got so excited and thought it was pretty much as good as over. Going mental about having ITB, Secret, BDS or Fnatic, 3 out of those 4 teams making it to the Manchester Major. I'll show you a clip, and this is probably why you don't tweet things in advance.
To put up, that live information is going to be crucial. And Jegs swings
ladies and gentlemen, we have just seen Fnatic win 6-0 on the attacking split on Nighthaven Labs against Wolves Esport on their map pick. As one great man, Leon Gids, said,
"Tune in to watch us fuck Wolves. Tune in to watch us fuck Wolves. Tune in to watch us fuck Wolves. Tune in to watch us fuck Wolves."
These results meant that Fnatic unfortunately dropped out and will be going down into the LCQ. But I do have a fantastic clip of a Jigsaw ace in that Oregon game up against Wolves, which they went on to lose. And then also an incredible 2K from Noah to keep ITB's hopes alive in a map which they went on to win, securing their spot into the semi-final against Secret as well. So I'll show you those 2 clips now from my watch parties. And don't forget to tune into the Twitch streams, because we'll be watch partying all the games as well in the upcoming weeks to see who makes it to Manchester.
Able to do so far for Fnatic. 35 on the clock and he's still stood in.
Jigsaw! Ah! No way! He's
gonna walk
smiling.
himself
Look at
up
his
armory
face.
stairs. Heard
He's
the
a
Q mine
monster.
hit. Jigsaw. You can see he's smiling. He knows it's on the cards.
My head's
Boom. 1
pounding.
HP, goes for the swing. Can he land it?
Seconds remaining.
Jigsaw.
Eventually, you're gonna finish it off.
Yeah.
An ace
Seal it
from
off.
the armory.
They're done.
You don't see that every
As
shot
you
pistol
knew
in
where
hand
he was
makes it
pushing,
work,
you knew he
takes
was an
Azza
active.
down, levels things up.
What is
Tokyo's
happening
come
in
to
this
his aid,
round?
Just hanging inside of Trophy there. Noah now the next in the hot seat. Doesn't want to go up against that pistol. He knows how devastating it can be. Can Oscar
No
find one from the
virtue.
other side? No, but it's taken out.
Oh,
Goes for the swing. Look at Noah. Line up for Demo.
Oh my!
What are we watching? What are we watching?
Wow! What a series of events!
So just to summarize it, so you sort of have a view of it visually, we have Secret up against Into the Breach and Wolves against BDS. The winners of those two games will be qualified for the Manchester Major, with the two losers of those games going up against each other for third seed at Manchester. The winner will also qualify for the Manchester Major, whilst the loser drops down into the LCQ. But that's everything that's done with the EUL as we move over to the other side of the world to have a look at what happened in Asia. In Asia, there's still 3 playdays left until we find out who will be making the top 6 and heading to playoffs. Playday 5 saw the highlight of the day being Galeda up against Bleed, with Fury, Dire Wolves and Elevate looking likely to have quite easy games. But we'll have a look at how those results actually ended up. And I mean, it went exactly in that fashion, with Fury winning convincingly 7-1, Bleed putting in an impressive performance up against that ex-Elevate roster of Galeda, beating them 7-4, Dire Wolves coming out on top 7-4 as well, and Elevate coming back into the full swing of things. Let's not forget they had a 7-0 defeat up against Furia a couple weeks ago, but they got a 7-0 of their own up against OCE Warriors, as we swiftly move on into and see what happened in the penultimate playday over in Asia. Now this was the big one, ladies and gents. We saw Bleed go up against Elevate, effectively a battle to see who would be coming out on top in the league. Elsewhere, Galeda went up against Dire Wolves, another big game there. Fury were going up against Knock Knock, and then we had OCE Warriors up against Daystar, as we take a look to see if there are any more shock results in Playday 6 over in Asia. So Playday 6 certainly had some turnouts for the book, with Galeda beating Dire Wolves 7-5, and there was also a 7-5 victory for the new boys of Elevate, with that UK sort of European influence coming into the side. Fury demolishing up against Knock Knock, and OCE Warriors managing to beat Daystar as well, as we take a quick look at the table over in Asia to see how things will be going into the final play day, which is actually happening right now, but we'll round that up in next week's video. So here we have a look at our table with one play day to go. We have Elevate topping the league on 15 points with a +2 round difference on top of Bleed, Fury in 3rd spot, Galeda down in 4th, and Dire Wolves in 5th, with OCE Warriors, Knock Knock and Daystar all battling it out, joint on 3 points for that final playoff spot, which will be decided today. But before we finish looking at Asia, I just want to bring up a couple of stats from one particular player in the Asia League. And yes, you may call me a little bit biased here, because it's the former player of Jihu, the UK boy Shed, going over to Asia. And this man has some of the most plants in the league as well. He's also in the top 5 for entry, and also has the highest cost. This is a man who's playing a supportive role within the team of Elevate as well, and I'm hugely excited to see if Elevate can make the major, because we want that EU UK representation as much as possible, what I do at the Manchester Major. But now we'll swing it on over to LATAM, as that's almost coming to a close as well, with only one play day left. So now we move over to LATAM South, where Vasco do find their way back to winning ways, with the Knights, who have sort of made that late resurgence in the second half of the season, winning 7-2 up against Malvinas. And then we had Alpha Team smashing out the Hawks as well. The Hawks really struggling, this year in LATAM South. But now we'll take a quick look at the second fixture that happened in the past week, which is the penultimate game of the LATAM South League. And I tell you what, the boys of Vasco are back to winning ways impressively, winning both their game weeks, well, both the games they played in the week, with a 7-0 victory. The Knights go storming on once more with a 7-3 victory, as poor old Hawks lose again, as we take a quick look at the LATAM South table to see who's looking at likely to push through into those playoffs. So with only one play day left, it's looking entirely locked in, with Vasco and Knights battling it out to see who will come out on top and get that first seed, with Maycam and Alpha guaranteed in the 3rd and 4th spot. Unfortunately for Hawks, it's been an absolute stinker of a season with only one overtime loss, and Malvina's looking very much off the pace as well. So those are going to be your 4 teams locked into playoffs. It's just a battling out of seeing who will finish 3rd or 4th and 1st and 2nd going into those playoffs, with only one game day remaining. As we zoom up a little bit north and look at what happened over in LATAM North. LATAM North saw the Revan boys getting back to winning ways. I'm so EU and UK biased, it's ridiculous, by the way, so apologies if that offends you. But you've got to support where you're from, you know. Revan coming out 7-0 victors up against Sinternegra. And then we saw Team Cruelty continue to be impressive by winning 7-3. Auglis getting a big win up against NXT players as well, as we'll take a look at what happened in their penultimate game day as well. Sinternegra getting back to winning ways. Revan unfortunately losing up against Team Cruelty, who look incredibly impressive, with 6 Karma and Cruelty continuing their dominance here. As we'll take a quick gander at the LATAM North table, with only one play day left to see who's locked in what and what could potentially change. So it's actually very much a similar thing to LATAM South, with these positions being locked in already. It's actually identical. We have our 2 top teams in LATAM North being Cruelty and 6 Karma. They will go into the final play day, battling it out to see who will finish top of that league. And then also NXT and Revan battling it out to see who will finish 3rd and 4th. So with only one play day left in this, we know which 8 teams from the 2 regions will be progressing through to the playoffs. So when we have this video next week, we will be a lot closer to finding out which of those LATAM teams may be making the Manchester Major. So now we move over to the North American League, otherwise known as NAL. And we had our 6 teams already locked into playoffs, with first place being Beast Coast, second place being Oxygen, M80 up against SSG as well, and Luminosity up against Dark Zero. Our first game of the day was M80, once again representing the EU, with bloody SPOIT and Citizen and Noodle, and they went up against SSG. And well, it was one hell of a game, but there was obviously the UK EU presence that came out on top. Winning that game was M80 2-0, and there was a fantastic map on Consulate where Kino popped off, clutching up in a 1v2 with a bit of cat and mouse between him and Ashenai, I believe it was. But I'll play that clip for you now, as M80 secured their spot in a match up against Oxygen, with the winner getting into the Manchester Major.
9-0 dies. Noodle still expecting one over towards hallway. He goes goodbye to Ashen.
Get out, get out, get out, get out.
Sprints out. He needs to play time. 30 seconds left. Ashen, moments away from getting onto that
This
diffuser.
is Ashen's big
Here's
moment.
there's a drone somewhere nearby. A flash. Ashen is sticking it. You need to swing.
Oh!
Times it by half a second.
Pros don't fake, baby. Pros
Ashen
don't
does not
fake.
fake. And a round that could have easily.
I also forgot about one really crucial clip in that, which was where Iconic missed out on killing the diffuser of the bomb, or the diffuser of the diffuser, through the rafters, and just assuming he had, ran away, which was sort of the final nail in the coffin of SSG in that best of 3. And you can see by my reaction when we watched partied it how gutting it was for SSG.
Close tape, go top.
Attackers are activating the bomb.
Go top. Last scene.
They're gonna walk on you.
Defenders have eyes on the diffuser. Attackers.
Fire spiral, they can only flank yellow.
I'd probably just flank.
On it.
They're on the
2.
kit.
3.
Oh no.
Fucker. We're good. We're
Bomb
good.
defusing.
What did he hit?
The beam. The metal beam in the floor.
It looked like he was logged in.
Yeah.
He fired a couple times.
Our second game of the quarterfinals was Dark Zero, who had just scraped through into the playoffs, similarly to how G2 did it, just scraping through on the final day as they went against Luminosity, and DZ secured a convincing 2-0 victory up against Luminosity. The player of that game truly was Pambazoo, of that series, I should say, as here's an insane 3K coming in from him over on border as he was just popping off all guns blazing. But Dark Zero confirming their spot to go up against Beast Coast for a chance of making it to the Manchester Major.
Knows Panbazoo can't reaggress without walking into his crosshair. My bad, my friend. I forgot about the radio window, and it's clear Silent did as well. Pat's certainly now aware of BEAULO's presence. No. Panbazoo can't be stopped. One more on East. Make it 0. Flawless round.
So the spot for the Manchester Major in the game between NAT and Oxygen truly was a civil war, as you can see here. This was a tweet posted out by R6 Esports NA. Obviously, you had Diaz, Gomez, Yaga, Kino, SPOIT, all being ex-teammates. With Yaga actually replacing Kino as Kino got dropped to the bench. And this was for a spot at the Manchester Major. And while it went all the way to a map 3, but the victors were M80, coming out on top up against Oxygen, winning 2-1, which secured the non-American NAL side of M80, making it through to the Manchester Major. And one of the players in that series truly had to be Citizen. He popped off in a huge way, and I've got a little 3K from him that we saw him putting on a show, really, up against Oxygen with a lovely little 3K on Chalet inside the basement.
They're trusting Citizen, as we always are. Citizen for 2. Can he get 3? He knows he's close. EDR in hand. And what the hell is M80 doing?
Our second upper semi-final bracket game of the day was Beast Coast up against Dark Zero, with Beast Coast coming out 2-1 victors up against Dark Zero, which secured their spot at the Manchester Major. I have to be honest, I'm finding it really hard not to jump on the Beast Coast hype train here, because this team is made up of some absolute gunners. You've got Diffuser, who's performing outstandingly in his debut season. You've got Gaveni, who was rejected by DZ, so a good revenge arc for him. You've got Gunner, who was rejected by Sonics, so a revenge arc for him as well. Hot and Cold rejected from SSG, and Spirits taken off of Wildcard. So 1 rookie, 4 players who were considered surplus to requirement at their other NAL T1 sides. And what do? They secure themselves a spot in the grand final. So the final play day of NAL to see who made the Manchester Major. The first game of the day was Dark Zero up against Oxygen. The winner of this would find themselves that Manchester Major spot, with Beast Coast going up against M80 to see who was crowned the champions of NAL and securing the maximum, I believe it's 150 SI points, which is huge as well. And we'll look at how those results came in. So our first game of the day saw poor old Oxygen, who got that top or second seed, and having 2 shots at making the major, losing to M80 and then losing to Dark Zero. Gutting for Oxygen as they drop down into the LCQ, but fantastic if you're a DZ fan, because who do they have? They have a Brit on their side in Nath, who was their top performing player throughout the season as well. So Dark Zero will be making it to Manchester, joining Beast Coast and M80. But who won the grand final, I hear you ask? Well, let's have a quick gander at that. The grand final was won by no other than Beast Coast. And I have to say, I'm a huge fan of them. As I've got a little clip from Gunner in his post-match interview, which I think just reigns so true. And I love the way he speaks so honestly and openly as well.
Shout out all the people that said I was dog shit. Fuck you guys. I'm nasty.
So a big shout out to everyone who said Gunner's dog shit, because he is nasty, as he said in his own words, or nasty. That was cringe. I'm never doing that American accent again. But here we have our 3 teams that are confirmed going to the Manchester Major. Top, Beast Coast. Second, M80. And then third place, Dark Zero. They will be the teams making it to phase 2 at Manchester. Hugely excited to see all of those teams play. We've got the European influence in these 2 sides here of M80 and Dark Zero. And then Beast Coast, the team of players considered surplus to requirement as they top NAL. But I'm just going to quickly pull up the stats so we can see who were some of our top performing players in NAL this season. So I'm going to have to duck down here because it's so much to take in. Literally, SPOIT, one of the top players here, top on the rating, plus 45 on the KD as well. The highest cost out of anyone also. And then clutches, you've got Kino with 6 and plants, Kino with 20 plants. An execute heavy side, you have to say, M80, which I think just makes for fantastic viewing when they attack. But one player who I really want to highlight here is Diffuser. Plus 30 on the KD, second highest rated player, second highest rated cost, second highest rated clutches as well. And this is this man's debut season. And look at the bloody cost of Beast Coast here. 4 out of the top 5 players for cost in NAL have been Beast Coast players. I'm hugely excited to see how these players can play on the international stage, because I think Manchester is going to be a ruddy banger and one of the best majors we've ever seen. So now we zoom on over to Japan, where once again it was playoffs time to see who would secure that spot at the Manchester Major. CAG played Exist, Kinner Trophy went up against Fathers is Back, and we'll take a look at how those teams got on in the first initial stages of the playoff. So here we have Exist bashing out CAG 2-1, Kinner Trophy winning convincingly 2-0, with the 5th place seeding match going in favour of CAG, which set up Scars against Exist and Kinner Trophy up against Vite Gaming to see who would progress to the grand final and be battling it out for that spot at the Manchester Major. So it was in fact Kinner Trophy who continued their dominant run, winning in the quarterfinals 2-0, the semi-finals 2-0, and Exist unfortunately falling at the final hurdle up against Scars, which locked us in for a fantastic battle to see if Scars could make it to another major event or if Kinner Trophy could upset the odds. And well, there was only going to be one winner. The quarter-finalists from the Copenhagen Major, Scars, come out on top and lock their spot into the Manchester Major. But before we finish with the Japan region, I just want to show you the full stats from the region, as there is one player you might want to keep your eyes on when they are playing at the Manchester Major. And that is going to be my man Nina for Scars. A rating of 1.36, some of the highest ratings we've seen from any player across all the regional leagues, and one of the highest pluses on KD of plus 51, ladies and gents. That's right, 51 plus on the KD. Along with that, the top rated player on the entry in the region as well. So Scars, congratulations. They will be competing at the Manchester Major as the top seed from the Japan region. Don't forget that one other team will still make it to the Manchester Major through the Japanese LCQ. Once again, we zoom off to another region that have locked in their playoffs. South Korea have their playoffs with Blossom up against PSG, BSG up against Fear X. The new look PSG Talon, backed by Fabian and Pengu, looking to make the full run to the major, and we'll see how they got on in their quarter-final game. It was indeed a convincing win for PSG Talon, winning 2-0, with Fearex also winning 2-0. So Talon progress up for a rematch against top of the table and the team that beat them, D+ Kia, whilst Fearex looking to repeat their impressive performance from last year as they look to make another major by beating Web L and getting through to the grand final. But how did it play out in the lobby, ladies and gentlemen? Wow, PSG Talon get the job done again. I mean, yeah, you might lose to them in the group stages, but you don't give a fuck about that if you manage to beat them in the upper bracket semi-final, winning 2-1 up against D+ Kia. Elsewhere, Fearex continued to look impressive, not having dropped a single map throughout the playoffs as they went into the grand final up against PSG Talon. Virex, let's not forget that they got through the group stages of SI, and PSG Talon with the new European coaching staff coming in to help them. But who was going to come out on top and secure that first spot from South Korea? Don't forget it's gone down to 2 now as well, so not both these teams make it. It's only the winner of the grand final and then the LCQ winner. But who came out on top, ladies and gents? No other than PSG Talon, winning the quarterfinal, the semi-final and the grand final. PSG Talon, our first team making it through to the Manchester Major from the South Korean region. And I just wanted to bring up a tweet coming out from Fabian, the head coach of Talon. I'll read it out to you. We beat Virex 2-1 after a tight game. I personally think we trolled Oregon harder than any troll I've ever seen before, but the boys truly deserve it. They worked their asses off. They welcomed me and the ideas I brought to them with open arms. It shows clearly in their gameplay and in their minds that we are a new generation of Korean team. Split theory, coming over to Korea maybe. At least we don't troll. First step of our journey with them, Manchester is only a bonus. Anything we do at the major is just the cherry on top. We get experience from it and we look to learn. So Fabian, not hugely saying that they're going to go smash and wreck it over in Manchester, but a fantastic experience for them to learn as they qualify through to phase 2 of the Manchester Major. As we'll just bring up the stats from Korea and look at some of the players that you might want to keep an eye out for on that PSG Talon side. So here we have the full stats here, and the names that stick out there for me are Soldier with a plus 47 KD, also the 1.2 rating, Ryder as well, plus 39, Soldier plus on the entry. But I mean, there's one player who I think has just performed amazingly, and that's got to be Rin. Top on the rating, top on the KD, top on the entry as well. So Virex, probably my favourites to make it through that LCQ and be joining phase 1 of the Manchester Major. But Ryder, Misa, Soldier, Roy Boy, JLT, all up there in respectively in their own different categories. But as we said, PSG Talon making it through to stage 2 of the Manchester Major. So things are heating up in my office, which is why I've taken my jumper off, but things were also heating up in the BR region, with Furia going up against Vivo Cade Stars in the lower bracket quarterfinal and Black Dragons up against E1. Furia played up against Vivo Cade Stars, and I have to say that JV92 just went absolutely nuclear as they came out victors up against Vivo Cade Stars, and I'll just show you the stats of JV92 across that series now. So as you can see here, the man went, I don't know why I'm pointing over here, that's my microphone. As you can see here, the man went 13 and 11 across the 2 series, securing their victory and their spot in the semi-final for a spot at the Manchester Major. Elsewhere, we saw E1 playing up against Black Dragons, and it was just another individual incredible performance as E1 came out victors, surprise victors, up against Black Dragons, with the main man Perez going nuclear. As you can see here, Perez going 21 and 15 across the series, and look at those entry stats, ladies and gents, getting 8 entry kills across the series and only losing 1 entry engagement, as we saw E1 and Furia win their games and booking their spot in the semi-finals. There are just 2 clips I want to show you from that Furia Vivo Cade Star games. One is where a player for Vivo Cade Stars got a 3K with the Super 90 on the Frost. I was watch partying the game as well, and it was absolutely insane. And then also Furia to just pull it back from the brink, looking like the old W7 that we thought we might see this season, with a fantastic disadvantage comeback to win a round up against Vivo Cade Stars as well. I'll let those 2 clips play out for you now.
In the
Where are we
time,
rotating to, boys?
Unclear if Vivo Cade can overperform a little bit in these gunfights. This is still an incredibly winnable round with Nade close on the E-box hatch. That's where Hornet is playing. He can shut this push down right now, and if he falls back and gets away untraded, this round could still go the way of Vivo Cade. Everyone down on the floor in one fell swoop. A 3v4 is no problem for Vivo Cade. All tied up 5-5.
What the fuck?
And although they have
No.
Drone, pega a informação do Erdina. Erdina vai ter que rotacionar também. Vamos ver essa finalização da VK. JV
posicionado um pouquinho mais para trás, jogando pelo bunker. Pode surpreender, pode ser um fator surpresa. E agora o Hates vai tentar a entrada, ó. Flash lançada, é o Warden. Tira o conforto do jogador, a bala do JV pega e o Reds derruba 2 do outro lado. Stamp tá encurralado, Caio incapacitado. Sobra apenas um jogador e vem a bala. Felipox não consegue finalizar e o Felipox fecha o jogo. O animal chega de 12 para botar ordem na casa e colocar 8-6 no placar no primeiro match.
So we had locked in our games to see which 2 teams out of the 4 would make the Manchester Major. Once again, it always seems to come back to this rematch of Furia up against FaZe and W7M up against E1. It turned out that FaZe would defeat Furia with Handy going absolutely nuclear and E1 with a surprise victory up against W7M. I'm just going to bring up Handy's stats from that series and look how impressive he was. So as you can see here, Handy going 29 and 13. I mean, a player you wouldn't usually expect to see pop off usually. I think he had quite low stats throughout the season, but I mean, they were winning every game and it was other players who were popping off in insane ways. But we'll take a quick look now at how the grand finals went and who secured their spot in that 3rd place playoff. So as you can see here, FaZe Clan just continuing to look dominant, beating E1. I mean, look at that, 2-0 against Furia, 2-1 against E1. I think for a lot of people, FaZe are looking like the best team coming into this Manchester Major. Elsewhere, we saw Furia beating W7M. So the old W7M roster beating the new W7M roster. Don't forget that the new W7M beat the old W7M in the group stages, but Furia get their revenge, which locks in our 3 teams from Brazil going to Manchester, which I'll show you now. So here we have it. Furia and FaZe, I think at the start of the season, a lot of people would have put them down as their teams to make it. And it's not going to be NIP. It's not going to be Black Dragons, Vivio, K-Star, W7M, or Liquid. It's going to be the shock turnout of E1 being one of the first 3 teams to qualify for the Manchester Major. And we'll just take a quick look at the stats to see which players you might want to keep an eye out for in the Manchester Major. So once again, I'm having to duck down here. And I mean, it's no surprise that on the rating, you have Souls, Handy, KDS, also on the KD as well. Souls with a plus 41 KD, also up there on the entry, on the cost, on the rating, on the kills. It's not unsurprising to see FaZe in such a dominant position on these ratings. In regards to the clutches, I mean, FaZe just don't find themselves having to clutch up, which is why I don't think we see many FaZe players in that clutch statistic. Arthur, by far the most plants, so maybe E1 looking like an exciting, attacking, executing team. But yeah, I think FaZe are looking like your big dogs going into Manchester as we take a look over at what happened in Australia for our final league for this week's roundup. So our final region and our final playday in OCE saw schedule for day 7 coming on in, and this was our results which locked in the players and teams into their positions in said league. So we had Man LFO with a very convincing, sorry I just sneezed, I lost my breath, with a very convincing 7-1 victory up against 6 targets. Bliss looking a little bit shaky but continue their flawless run inside of the OCE League with an 8-6 victory. Why can't I breathe after sneezing? With an 8-6 victory up against Panic. Odium secure themselves 3rd spot, beating Kelton Knights 7-4. And Circular Spears with a really tightly contested game up against Antic, which saw them through to the playoffs as well. And I mean, I want to highlight this here, this 8-7 game, because it was actually Antic and Circular Spears that matched up in the playoffs, which we'll take a look at and how they went as well. But before we look at those playoffs, you can see the teams that made it. Bliss and Man LFO Esports, I've said that the wrong way around, securing the top 2 seeds, so we'll progress further into the semi-finals, with the Odium going up against Panic, and then Antic versus Circular Spears. And let's look at how the playoffs went. So our playoffs had Panic losing out 2-0 to Odium, which meant Odium got a matchup which will take place, and I'll be watch partying next week up against Man Esports LFO. And then Antic coming out to beat Circular Spears 2-1. But in that game, Circular Spears did win the first map 7-0 and went on to lose 2-1, which is absolutely gutting. A similar thing that we saw happen in EUL with Fnatic up against Wolves. But it will be Bliss up against Antic, Man Esports up against Odium. That will be on Monday, which we will be watching. And then on Tuesday, the grand final will be either Bliss and Antic up against either Odium or Man Esports LFO, with the winner finding themselves in phase 2 of the Manchester Major. And don't forget that only one team makes it to Manchester from OCE, so it's all to play for next week. So get around it, get amongst it, don't be shy, as we take a look at which teams we now have confirmed in Manchester as we round up the video. So here we have our teams confirmed already at Manchester. We have PSG Talon from South Korea, Scars from Japan, the 3 from NAL will be Beast Coast, M80 and Dark Zero. The 3 from Brazil will be FaZe, E1 and Furia. And next week we will find out the 3 from EUL, which will be joining us with some of the other LCQs finishing across the other regions. So thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you in next week's video, or hopefully see you in some of the watch parties at tomjsherlock on literally everything. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. So see you in the next one, guys, and have a lovely rest of your day. Cheers. Bye.